Good morning, Sir Maarten. What's up? What's cooking? September 25th, 2023, episode 93. Woo! What a weekend, man. A lot of rain. On and off, we had rain there. So we were hoping that not too much was going to fall, but I had some segments where there was some serious rainfall, and I'm sure the greenery on the island was quite happy with such. So that was nice to see that we had some good rain, and yet in such a way that we could have enjoyed the days anyway. Now, let me start off today and congratulate my brother that does the podcast like I do, Gromiko Wilson. He had a great informative show yesterday. A lot of good information was given by the lawyer Cormerks on various topics, and I really want to tell you all, if you have the time, go back on his podcast and listen to it. It was really good. I think the information on various topics, but especially the school bus aspect, I think that was great. Well done, and kudos to the lawyer for informing the people the way that should be. Now, during September and October, those are the worst months for many businesses on the island, especially the businesses that deal in the tourism field, so restaurants, bars, and so. A lot of them close down during September and October. They normally have contracts with the employees, so the employees are let go, and they have no income. And the reason businesses do that is because they can't survive themselves. To pay rent, pay utilities, pay employees, and your turnover is not there, or your turnover wasn't strong enough during the year, you're going to end up that a lot of locations are closed. Some of them stay open, and I'm very happy for them because at least those employees are there. But maybe we have to find some kind of way where we can, as residents of this country, support those businesses, that they can stay open and keep their employees on payroll. It's a difficult something. I have seen it firsthand. So it isn't that I am just saying something because I heard it. No, I've seen it, and I think it's something very important to be dealt with. Like I know hotels used to have this staycation, so locals can go and stay by them at a very reduced rate. I don't know how it will work in the industry, but I think it's something that maybe, SHTA or chamber, I don't know, who can come together and say, how can we prevent so many people shutting down, or maybe can we reintroduce St. Maarten differently for the September, October months when we are promoting it abroad, and that we get the necessary airlift to come in so that we can change it the way it is now and maybe get something better in the future. I don't know, but I think we got to understand that when people are out of work, they will hustle to make ends meet. And if the hustle means you got to break the law, it's going to happen because they got to feed their children, if we like that or not. But I'll come back to that one a little later in the topic that I'm going to discuss about crime. CFT gave St. Maarten a positive write-up regarding the financial well-being of the country for the first 6 months, and I was happy to read that. No matter who is sitting in government, at the end of the day, they are there to govern the country for all of us, not for them or for the opposition. No, they are there to govern. So the first 6 months went well, and there was a surplus of about 41 million. And that happened basically according to the CFT report. They collected some more income, but they gave out much less than last year, for example. So there was much less expenses. Now, if you have less expenses and they are warranted, great. If they're not warranted, then that's a different story, but I don't want to go there right now. I just want to say we have 41 million that we had as a surplus. The second half of the year naturally is going to be the slower part of the year. You have the August, September, and October months where things are much slower than, for example, the beginning, and then November, December will pick up and you get back into season, but your income might be lower. And according to St. Maarten, they anticipate they might be 20 million less, but at the end of the day, they said they will only have 1 million surplus, which means approximately 40 million will be reused for maybe different things. I hope one of them is paying the police, because I don't know what's happening there. why the police haven't been paid out fully, even though Cormac said he understood that some police were paid, but not all were paid, and how much is going to be paid, because the amended budget 2023 didn't reach Parliament yet. So I cannot tell you what's happening there. Once we see budget 2023 amended and budget 2024, then you can discuss what's happening with the monies that were collected. Naturally, and I will remain on this point, even when I'm out of politics, let me be honest. Seniors need help. They are crying out for help. Yet, we are not helping them. There are no provisions put in place to help seniors. We need to stop taxing seniors. When I'm elected, that will be my first order of the day. With a swipe of a pen, we can stop it. Yet we opt not to stop it, and we come with all kind of stories about we gonna reform this and we gonna reform. We don't have to reform a damn thing. What we gotta do is stop taxing them. And with a swipe of a pen, the minister can make that amendment. He can, but he doesn't want to, because he's being advised by some people that he shouldn't do that, and that's unfortunate, because the people that build this country are being put through unnecessary hard times. For what? For what? We don't even, some of them don't even have a livable wage of $3,500. Yet we tax them once they're above minimum wage. Why? Why would you do that? I don't understand where that humanitarian part of this government is when it comes to the seniors. I honestly don't. I honestly don't understand it. They can explain me as much as they want, but I just don't see it. At this point in time, we have a debt of approximately 1.2 billion guilders according to the CFT as of June 2023. That's about 44% of our gross domestic product, our GDP. Normally, in accordance to the RFT law, I believe it's between 50 and 55% we can maximum go into a debt, where the maximum debt versus the debt ratio should not be much more different than what it is. I think if we look at the issue we are already having right now with the bearing point, I believe we're still going to end up owing, what, 13, 14 million there that we have to pay them. So that's going to be a debt on us again. We have the India loan that they're trying to ram down our throats, which I'll discuss just now, which is going to be another 200 million guilders, so $100 million give and take. Minister saying 60 to 90, I disagree with him. If I look at what we owe or what we own in the central bank, that's the way the division is going to take place on this loan. And it's not going to take place on how much participants you have and how much you don't have. I don't see that happening if central bank takes the loan. You pay based on your shares in the bank and not how much people live in one country, because that's not how the country looks at it. That's not how the organization looks at it. It looks at who owns what, and that's how you pay. So I think we are looking at easily $120 million that we might be owing, so another 225 million guilders that will be then added on to our debt, making us any place around 240, 250 at the end of the run, and that will put us in a very serious bind. And that's why CFT was very cautious about taking these loans and gave a negative to it. That was positive in the sense that the second chamber took that advice and is running with it for they themselves to disapprove of the India loan being given the way it's being given. I firmly believe that there are solutions for India. One of them is that the central bank is supplemented the 600 million by the Dutch. They will then bail out India under very stringent conditions, because they have a supervisory role to deal with, so they can look at it. The assets of India will be held by the central bank as collateral to the Dutch for that money. Once the Ansari case is terminated in court, whatever is recouped will be immediately paid back to the Dutch. And if there is a balance, because there can always be a balance, if there is a balance, then the discussion will start between the two countries And India, how are we going to repay that money to the Dutch? That's when it starts. Not now. There's no reason now to anchor down the countries when times are very difficult already. I'm going to make a strange statement, but COVID-19 is rampant in America. America is St. Martin's lifeline to tourism. I don't expect, but I will not exclude that what we had 3 years ago can reach back to us very fast without us having any say about that. So we gotta be cautious and we gotta trend carefully. We are on very thin, slippery ice. And all these ego trips ain't gonna get us no place. Honestly, they ain't gonna get us no place right now. So we gotta be very, very careful. I'm extremely happy that some 5 MPs voiced their serious concerns, like I also did and many others did, about the sentences given to the courts to the 2 child molesters that both confessed that they did it. The damage done to these kids is forever. It is forever. Now, a lot of reasons were given why they couldn't incarcerate them. I'm not going to go into that. I only hope that the prosecutor's office of St. Maarten appealed the sentences. Because if they did not appeal it, that means they agree with molestation of children. There's no other way I can put that. If you see a judge make a mistake, it is your obligation to appeal the case and hope that the judges in appeal see a different picture, because the prosecutor's office asked for a prison sentence. They didn't ask for a suspended sentence. They didn't ask for community service. They asked for a prison sentence. So why, when community service or a suspended sentence is given, you are not appealing? You do it with everything else. So what's so special in this one? You see, they said, oh, the gentleman had dialysis. But you can remember the story that there was this Irish man that had molested children in St. Maarten, and they can't find him now because they had let him out of prison, and he run gone and they can't get him. Guess what? He too was on dialysis, and he was missing a leg, but they had him in jail. They had him in Point Blanche. So I'm trying to understand the logic. I'm honestly trying to understand the logic. But at this point in time, I ain't getting it yet. And I haven't heard from the prosecutor's office if they appeal the verdict or not. I didn't hear anything. So I honestly hope that they do. But I'll tell you all something. Because our churches, our community councils, parent organizations, sports organizations, nobody is saying nothing. Everybody quiet. And I gotta agree with Mr. Ralph Cantav. Your silence is deadly. Because the Dutchmen have a saying, wie zwijgt, stemt toe. All those that remain silent are approving what happened. So please, I beg of you all, open your mouth. Talk about it. It is not a norm that I nor St. Maarten should be willing to accept. That pedophilia and child molestation is a new norm. It is not, in my opinion. And we gotta be honest about these things. This is not a taboo. This is a damn crime that was committed. Next, we're going to agree that rape is okay and molestation on the work floor is okay. No, it's not. It's a crime. And when we see these things, irregardless of who family it is, we got to deal with it the right way. Otherwise, we are sending the wrong message. Let me thank the NRPB and the trust fund for extending the enterprise support project for another 3 years. And also that the grant is now 75% instead of 65%. Also, I'm very grateful for the trainings that were given to the various groups of persons, and those persons are now also eligible for these loans. I think it's a great thing. Now though, it's time to get these loans to the people. We have realized that it didn't work well the first time around. All we got to do now is ensure that the requirements fit the reality so that people can get these loans and do something. It's a beautiful project. Let's make it work all the way this time. Because the last time it worked, but it didn't reach the results we wanted it to reach. That's also one of the reasons for this extension and even a bigger grant now. So let's really make this thing work. I got to congratulate the Minister of VSR and the doctors that made the Huisartsen Post de Hap at the St. Maarten Diagnostic Center a reality. A lot of people have already visited that place, so they can go there. I think it's from 6 in the afternoon to 12 midnight, Monday to Friday. Saturday the whole day. Sunday also, I think 6 hours. That's a great something, because at least you don't have to go to the emergency room and take up a slot that somebody else could have taken. I mean, listen, emergencies are emergencies. But I think it's a great something, and I hope it really serves the purpose it was created to do. Now, this one here caught me a little off guard. We have people telling investors not to press charges against fraudulent actions of a developer of the carbon acquisitions, while clearly there's a lot of money and a lot of wrongdoing. You know, telling people that they're going to lose their money that presently they have already lost is you ain't telling them diddly squat. What you're telling them is, don't press charges against my family. But I think the good man should give the people back your money, or let them auction off the places, and at least they can get back some of their money. But nothing going no place. I have no faith the good gentleman can come back to fix it. Not with what's happening right now. Already, stuff that had to happen in Guanabe didn't happen, and the land was auctioned off. So again, we got to understand the damage this is doing to a lot of locals that invested, but also foreigners. Because when people start to talk about these things on Facebook, social media, it only gives a negative image of the island. And I think the bottom line is the developer is not living up to his obligations after all the money he took from people. If the buyers them feel defrauded, they should press charges. And hopefully you stand a chance to get back something when the buildings are auctioned off, instead of not doing anything and eventually losing everything. Because that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. And people get offended, God bless you. You have a right to your opinion, but I won't share that one. This is like a Ponzi scheme, and that's wrong. I understand hard times can hit any developer, but don't run, go live elsewhere. To hear your billing, to hear the people be, deal with it. You see, and this is the problem. See, now they're writing he gone 2 years already. I understand he gone 2 years, but what I'm saying is people shouldn't come out defending him. And if I gave you $100,000, I don't want $500 a month. I want my money back. I ain't waiting no 15, 20 years to be paid $500 a month to get back my investment, my savings. No, I ain't doing that. I'm going to press charges. Finally, after a lot of pressure was put on the public prosecutor's office, in Curacao in particular, they came out and stated that they had already started an INEA investigation, a criminal investigation into the INEA affairs. But at this point in time, they can't say no more until the investigation is over, and then they will inform the public of Curacao and St. Maarten once again. Now, again, I'm happy that they said it. We busy. What they're busy with, we will find out as they come out and say who's being investigated, who the pressing charges against. Only then you will understand what it is. Before that, there's an investigation ongoing based on a complaint of the central bank. And the central bank's complaint, to my knowledge, was all those ghost commissioners and commissioners that were paid way more than they should have been paid in accordance with how they used to be paid previously in India and its subsidiaries. What's going to be interesting though is how they're going to look at these people. Are they going to look at them at what they did? Or are they going to look at them like how they love to do it with politicians? The position you hold or held versus the crime you committed. Or, let me rephrase, the crime you allegedly committed. Because if they do that, that second one of those commissioners will get 10 years before he even gets sentenced because of the positions he held. For God's sakes, he was their boss for 11 years. You see where this is going to end up? So that's going to be an extremely interesting part of this case. How the sentences going to fall between those that got 7 million, 3 million, 2 million, 500,000, you name it. It's going to be interesting. That's why, for now, I ain't going to dirty no words on it yet. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to look at it. Because a lot of questions are going to come after those sentences or when the charges are pressed. Because we don't know what all happened. All we saw in the sentences of the Ansari case were who all got what for what. More than that, really, you don't pick out of it. So I don't want to jump to judgment, nor jump and accuse anybody. But I can tell you out of experience that when I was sentenced for allegedly what they said I did, they held in consideration my job, my status in the community, etc., etc. And because of that, they get a higher sentence. I wonder how they're going to do it with somebody who was the governor, or somebody who was the president of the courts, or a judge, for God's sakes, for 16 years. I wonder how they're going to do that one then. Because you see, they never had to deal with it before. But now they got it on their plate. Now it's on their plate. Let's see what's going to turn out. I was sent a messenger by someone who says, and I know the gentleman well, and no names. He says, listen, I always listen to your podcast, and I would appreciate it if politicians would touch on two things for him. The first thing was the basket of goods. He says the basket of goods is now full with non-fruit and vegetable items, just to mention. Also take a good look at the rest of the goods in the basket. Everything is in there is to help promote and fuel diabetes and hypertension. I didn't get a chance to take the basket of goods under the loop, but what I do know is that fresh vegetables and fruits are not a normal supplement in St. Maarten. That's a high-end commodity. If you have to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, you can have one meal a day, not 3. That's how expensive they are. I was in a supermarket a few days ago. I went to shop for some chicken. And a case of chicken wings, 5 pounds, was 22 guilders. 22 guilders. Something that is normally 10 to 12 guilders. It is impossible for people to survive with the prices in the supermarket. I have a decent salary, and I'm very careful how I shop, because there clearly is no control of what's happening. And fresh fruits and vegetables, pray you can buy them from those that import them from Santo Domingo or from Dominica. And then if you don't watch out, the market buys them up so that you don't get them cheaper and they then lose out. So the big supermarkets buy them up and they share them up among themselves. That way they still got good control. Again, I haven't gone through the basket of goods, but I will do that this week to hopefully get a much better idea so I can have a longer and deeper discussion. The second point was, and let me read it as basically it was written to me. The census project that began last year and ended, if I'm not mistaken, July 2023. It ended in May, I understood. I did some research. Are you aware that 90% of the residents in the Pelican, Maho lowlands and other high-end districts have refused to participate in the census? Basically, in a layman term, the most high-class citizens didn't cooperate. When will the politicians stop fooling the people of this country? When I got that one, I decided, let me make a few calls. I know some people. Let me see if they'll be willing to tell me anything. So I decided to make a little call here, make a little call there, and then I understood that about 80% of the island has been censused. So we know about we got 80% of the people counted. That alone rang a bell. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it was recently that we decided that we stick into 15 seats and not 17 seats as the law prescribes, because once you're over 60,000, you go to 17 seats. I can remember there was a minister that was saying, hey, we are there already based on the numbers we have at census. Then they did a census cleanup and we ended up at 58,000. So 10% is about 5,800. 20% is about 11,000. So are we now at 70,000 with 100% interpolated? Or are we at 58,000 with 80% counted? Which one is it? Because the interpolation is what should count, since you're never going to be able to count all 100%. But our percentage was about 80%. And even if it was 90%, we would have passed the threshold of 60,000, meaning that Parliament should have become 17 members. Think about it, good people. These are things that need to be questioned. They need to be questioned. Because decisions are taken, but the information seems not to be very clear what that decision is based on. Because the decision is based on what's in census. But if you didn't count 20% of this island, who says census ain't wrong? Because you are over 61,000 and you threw out people by saying their permits were expired to be here, so they can't be here, are throwing them out. But the same Minister of Justice and VSI said, no. People who haven't been registered by their bosses, we give you a chance to be registered up to September of this year. So I'm confused. And if I am confused, I'm sure others are also confused. How does it work exactly? But to get back to what the good gentleman said, he said that in the high-end areas, the people were not cooperating. So I asked that question too. And they said, well, two things, MP. One, when we got there were a lot of vacationers in the house. So people that were not living in St. Maarten but were vacationing in the houses, so they didn't answer the questionnaires because they were not residents. The other one was that a lot of people were on vacation, so the house was empty. So they went back. They went back again. And then they decided, okay, they go in there, how many people are here? They will tell you how much people were there, so they could have gotten a count on that. But the people refused to give the information on how much money they're earning, etc., etc., etc. So while you had a census on bodies, you didn't have a statistical review of what's really happening in this country money-wise, jobs, are they working legally? All of those things didn't show in the census in those areas. This is information reaching me. I think the nice part of it is at least now we know who renting out their places and making money. And maybe we can review that now with the tax office, because if they're not by Airbnb registered, which we would then get a tax payment of once the agreements are inked, then at least we know who's doing what, and we can then directly go and look at them and tell them, so what are you doing with the income that you're deriving from the asset in St. Maarten? It is taxable. Even if you leave in that money in Miami because you have a bank account there, you have to pay for the asset generated income in St. Maarten. The law states that. So at least the census would have given us that, if anything. So let's see. I want to touch our National Heritage Park. We cry a lot of crocodile tears when national monuments are torn down, yet we do nothing. We do absolutely nothing to help the Monument Fund. We stand by and see the National Heritage Park being ripped away from under the feet of CMARC and the St. Maarten Museum. I mean, I'm trying to figure out. In 2021, all of them came together. The library, Philipsburg Jubilee Library, CMAC, and the museum. And I can recall they were going to build the National Heritage Park, where all of them would have had their place, their home, and they were going to add on a few things. I think one of the things they wanted to add on was that they were going to build a 500-seat auditorium. Something that we need badly in this country. We have NIA and other dance schools, and they're fighting in the cultural center to put on a show because big stages cost big money. We had the opportunity. It was worked out. And in 2021, the St. Maarten National Heritage Foundation and Museum and CMARC got a letter informing them that their previously agreed on working relationship to together venture into the National Heritage Park is no longer so. I don't understand that the government that for the past 4 years has been celebrating Emancipation Day in grand style and always crying when a monument was damaged, stood by and did nothing. And don't tell me you can't do something. The lands where the library is on are domain lands. And I think the government should have pulled a page out of the St. Rose Arcade book. And look how the St. Rose Arcade took domain lands, transformed it with a business plan. Say what you want about Michel Soons. Transformed it, built the St. Maarten Home and the Sister Basilia Center in St. John's Estate, and they have been supplemented with income that is generated in the St. Rose Arcade. Say what you want. But that's how things are able to be done. We have a prime piece of land where the library is. A prime piece. You could do it over there if you so desire, because there's a school right next door. The problem I have with that location is there's no parking. There's no parking there. So maybe you make a swap with the government of St. Maarten and you go to where the post office is, and over there you build this National Heritage Park. You have right next door coming the new Parliament building, the High Councils, and you have 500 parkings. You have to work in synchronization to use your assets as good as you can. I don't understand why they couldn't do this. You can talk to APS that they build everything for us because they have money, they're liquid. They can build the new Parliament building, the High Council's buildings, the libraries, all of these things. And they are monthly paid rent, where we rent to purchase. And 20 years from now, 25 years from now, we will own all those buildings and we would have saved a significant amount of money on rental. But for one reason or the other, egos are running wild and we are destroying what we have. I spoke once about the courthouse and I said I do not understand why the justice wing cannot talk to APS, use part of the parking lot, or like the original intention was to take up the TLM building, have TLM built someplace else and put the justice wing behind there. All these plans exist. All of them exist. And that way you free up the courthouse in town and you make that your national museum and your archaeological center if you so desire. But do something. We're not doing anything. We're just looking on and we're allowing third parties to tell us what's going to happen in the country. Now I understand why third parties do this, because government all too often behaves as a lame duck. But there are things we need to do to get this country back on track. That is one of them. I don't want to hear people talking about, oh, our heritage, oh, our culture, oh, our monuments. Talk about it for what? You ain't doing the damn thing about it anyway. How much money did we put in the budget? Nothing. I am nearly convinced that we have hardly done anything for the Monumental Council so that we can have a monumental fund to help people in this country that have monuments, to help them repair it and bring it up to par. Because we can stand by and let them be deteriorated and then say, well, you can't build nothing there anyway because it's a monument, but you're not helping them. Take a page out of the book of Curacao, how they have used their monument fund and funds from all over the world to rebuild Outrabanda with all its monuments, to build Punda with all its monuments. Take a page out of theirs. Call Herman George. Ask him how he did a lot of those things. Do that if you all don't know what to do. I believe that J. Harrison and them need to have more attention given than just a meeting in Parliament. There needs to be a committee called and put in charge of the whole rebuilding of the Jubilee Library, the museum, and the archaeological center. The trust fund has a member on it that's in the steering committee, and this needs to be reviewed. We talk about resiliency. Resiliency is not only making a strong roof. Resiliency is building your people. Let them know where they came from, what we stand for. That too is resiliency. Come on, man. You're all fighting a museum. You're all fighting an archaeological location. I mean, come on. What is wrong with us? I cannot comprehend. Honestly, I am trying my utmost to understand why we do this. Honestly, I'm trying, but I can't. I really, really, really can't. The problem, Julian, is not who heads them. We all know who head them. We all know who heads the library. They have a board. They have been having trouble. They have been fighting each other. We have the museum. They got them cramped up there on Front Street in one of those places there, one of those little small huts there across one of the notaries. And you have J. Harrison got his stuff in a container because the location they had, they don't have anymore. I mean, if this doesn't say something to us, then I don't know what to tell you. I honestly don't know what to tell you. Maya, again, I have given you an option what to do. I hope you all are listening and that you all start thinking a little more advanced than only saying it's my way or the highway, because that's what a lot of these ministers are doing right now. Our reality in the kingdom, I was extremely happy that the king, in his speech from the throne during the ceremonial opening of the new parliamentary year in the Netherlands, made it clear that the Dutch state's prosperity shouldn't overshadow the fact that there's a serious poverty issue, an affordable housing shortage, and discrimination. That's what the king said. Not Van Camper. The king. He just said it last week. With all the issues ongoing in the world, like the war in the Ukraine, issues at home need to be placed in perspective, like better job opportunities, education, culture, and support for the vulnerable. This is what the king is seeing in his kingdom. And he's not only talking about Holland, because poverty, while they have it in Holland, it's also a big problem in all of the former Netherlands Antilles Islands, all, including Aruba, all. In Aruba, Curaçao and St. Maarten, it's much worse than in the Best Islands and in the Netherlands. It's much worse. Interesting was the king's take on an outsider's view of the Netherlands, being an attractive country with good facilities and a strong economy embedded in robust international structures that bring wealth and protection. That's how foreigners see, in particular, the Netherlands. That's how they see the sovereign state, the Netherlands. But the positive image conceals the permanent task of working, and here it comes, for equal opportunities, security of existence, and perspective. In Holland, that's a big problem right now. Down here, it has always been a problem. We have always been second class. We have never been equal. Never. Not everybody can take a decent home, good health, and a safe domestic situation for granted. These are the king's words, people. This is what this good man is seeing after sitting 10 years on the throne. This year was his 10th anniversary being the king of our Dutch kingdom. The king also made it very clear that racist exclusion and discrimination in the Dutch society is very much alive yet. Interesting was the king's remark that while the country's government lost its mandate, the country will still spend 2 billion euros to ensure that those in poverty will not go deeper into poverty, Benefits to help poor families will increase, and the energy bill to help the residents bridge the winter will be extended for a second year. The best will also receive funds to combat poverty. The king also spoke of the fight at home to combat organized crime, to protect their streets, neighborhoods, and businesses. While this was the speech of the Dutch sovereign state of the Netherlands, I was a little disappointed, unfortunately, that the king, as the head of the monarchy, didn't touch on the political rhetoric of the kingdom relations when it comes to the standard of living and health in the other parts of the kingdom he also oversees. Their concept of equality, as so eloquently professed and stated in the Charter, are not true, and we need to ensure we correct the Charter soonest. At least the king showed that what we pretended to be as a kingdom isn't really the reality. The reality is the poor keep getting poorer, and that group now is also growing in the Netherlands. By us, we already have 75% living under the poverty line. And that will only grow because this government doesn't see it fit to help the residents of this country. GEBE relief for our people. I decided that I'm going to make a proposal to GEBE and the government of this country so that our people can receive some serious relief when it comes to paying their outstanding bills moving forward. But to do this, we need to understand what we're up against. Many working people in Maarten, 75% actually lives under the livable wage of 3,500 guilders a month, according to the statistics at our social insurance entity. I ain't making this up. You all don't believe me? Go and check. Go by SFV, you can see exactly what they earn. And when you see what they earn, we got 22,000 people working. Do the math. Then you come back and talk to me. About 54% of the working class, which is about 11,000 families, earn minimum wage. Minimum wage, 54% of our country. GEBE itself is in a serious financial cash flow and needs to collect their monies so they can meet their expenses, including fuel, taxes, payroll, etc., parts for engines, etc. GEBE is a company whose services are basic necessities, just like healthcare and the hospital. Those are basic necessities. Without funds, they cannot buy the needed fuel, for example, to make electricity. So they too need money. Since the hack last year, March, the company has coped with many issues of billing and collection, allowing huge outstandings to be created by their consumers. Payment plans offered presently aren't really working for most people, and thus many persons will put themselves in positions, very serious financial positions. They're taking loans at the bank to pay right now. So instead of car loans now, they're taking GEBE loans so that they can go and pay. But because you don't have something to sell, like a car, you could sell it and get back money. GEBE bills, you can't sell them. They are only putting themselves deeper and deeper into financial problems. But what I found a little remarkable also with GEBE itself was that they were sending you late fees. But you can't send me a late fee if you don't give me a bill. A lot of people don't have bills, and when they get the printouts of everything, suddenly you start to see late fees. And you have to ask yourself a question, a late fee for what? You never gave me the bill. Telling me to pay something that I don't know what I owe. You can't give me a late fee. I think you all need to check that and remove those 10 guilder late fees. It is wrong to do at this point in time. I think a lot of people are doing whatever they can not to get cut. And that means whatever they got to do. Let me make a little simple proposal to everybody. I think we need to create an 18-month payment plan for all consumers to have their outstandings paid over 18 months, 18 equal increments. So if you owe 1,800 guilders, you pay 100 guilders every month for the next 18 months. If you owe 3,600 guilders, you pay 200 guilders every month. If you owe 5,400, you pay 300 guilders every month for the next 18 months. But you must do this while staying current. You gotta pay your bill, and then you pay the balances of what you owe over 18 months. If we do something like this, it means GEBE is not going to be getting their money in one shot, but you're going to get it over 18 months. So we have to look at a few things. Who does GEBE have to pay every month? Few people. The people that supply them fuel, the government for taxes, concessions, PATs. So which ones? He ain't gonna give you a break. The people for the PATs, they want their money. People for the fuel, they want their money. So concession and taxes hanging around. Those are government. Now, what can government do to give GEBE a break? To not pay taxes for 18 months. So that that money can be used to keep GEBE operational. Or that GEBE doesn't pay concession. Concession is about 5-6 million, so it isn't that much compared to what's outstanding. So again, we gotta find where government can give GEBE a much needed break so that they can keep their heads above water and sail through while not crucifying the residents of this country for money that they don't have at this point in time. That is one alternative. Another alternative is to also look at the taxes imposed on the fuel. Fuel is going up in the next few months. It's going to go up high. What is going to happen with the throughput fee, for example, at the harbor? Because I think that throughput fee is tied to the harbor loans and the harbor income. I think there might be a problem, but maybe we can discuss this and see if this can be mitigated. When you look at the fuel in the newspaper, gasoline and diesel, and I know GEBE also uses diesel, you realize that government charges turnover tax twice. Not once, twice. That's why turnover tax is so dangerous. Because first the distributor pays 5% turnover tax, and then the retailer pays 5% turnover tax. So in reality, the government is getting 10%, if not a little more, exponentially on those taxes. And then they get more money on whatever else they have in the breakdown of the fuel. Maybe here too, government can look a minute and say, okay, where are we going? Because when you look at gas prices, in America, it's about $3.88, give and take, a gallon, on average, $3.88. And they expect it by year end to be down to $3.32. By us, right now we pay about $2.60. So if you multiply that by 3.7, you will understand that we are looking easily at $4.5, $5, $4.50 to $5 a gallon of fuel. A whole maybe 25% higher than in America. Food for thought, people. Food for thought. So again, like I said, I think if we look at it from that angle, I think we can do something for the people in Maarten, that they get an 18-month payment plan, you sign for it, you stay current with your monthly bills, and you pay 1/18th, or if they want to do it for 2 years, you pay 1/24th for on your outstanding bills. And in that way, God's willing, you can get out of this crisis. And as GEBE gets back their money, they owe government the monies that they didn't pay that time. It isn't as if GEBE gonna keep the money and make a profit. No, 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 no. You are giving GEBE a credit line. You're facilitating them. You should have paid me $100,000 in taxes. I will waive that for 2 years. But after that, they're coming for more money. That's what we're talking about. I ain't talking about giving them no handouts. No, 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 that's not needed. Government need their money to do their things. But right now, government can stretch differently. That's what I'm talking about. School fights. School fights are totally out of control once again. We have what? 5 weeks of school now? I think we got about 5 weeks. So let's say 25 days. In those 25 days, we have over 22 registered fights. Registered. How much unregistered? Only God knows. But it means it's nearly a fight a day. At the schools, it's nearly a fight a day. And we have to start discussing a little more seriously how we're going to handle this and what sort of corrective procedures and punishments needs to be meted out. You have to understand that a lot of these youngsters have parents. And it's easy to say all the parents are accountable. Some of these youngsters are as disrespectful as they come. You see, youngsters have no respect for authority. And there's a lot of gang movement. When you see some of these videos, a lot of people don't pay attention with the people around the fight. Check bandanas that they wear. Check the way they give signals. And when the fight starts, how that goes. Community service is a punishment that is given sometimes before you take them to courts and they get a record. You give them community service. Prosecutors do that. But as long as we don't take these children out of the environment they're in, not much will change. It will only escalate upwards. It will only get worse. You have to think about anger management also, group therapies. But teachers are scared of students because students do them bodily harm also. And the question you have to then ask yourself is, okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to have a long-term plan, or what about a short-term plan? I've spoken about a short-term plan on numerous occasions. From the start of this governmental term, I spoke of a boot camp. The VKS and the Dutch Marines are on this island. We can build a nice camp, a boot camp, or kazerne, whatever you want to call it, where youngsters that are problematic within society can spend some time there, where they will get behavioral therapy, they'll be educated, so they won't fall behind. You see, locking up a child, because they are children, all they do is learn how to become worse. Because there's no rehabilitation really going on in prison. The prison isn't equipped to do that good. So the youngsters go up there, or they go to Mr. Ali Center, and what happens then? 6 months later, 2 years later, we leave them, go with what? Without a trade, without anything. And we expect them to survive? They will survive here, but they're going to survive on the way of the streets, not the way society would want them to. We need to look at this from a different perspective. And oh, we're going to build new schools elsewhere? That's long term. We can't even rebuild what we had to rebuild that got damaged with Irma. I mean, go by the region. The school's still in there. Go Colby on the main road. School's still in there. Go in Dutch Quarter. Problems with the schools. So please, let's get real. Building schools, equipping them with teachers is a good thing. But it's not the solution right now. Right now, we're going to have to deal with the youngsters a little different. While I agree that we can give them community service because there's enough environmental work that they can help with the cleanup, but they also need to be taught moral values. Seemingly at home, that ain't happening good enough. And we can say, okay, we're going to arrest the parent and hold the parent liable for the child's behavior. And what do you think that's going to do? So you're locking up the father now or the mother. So who can provide for the home? It's not as easy as we think it is. This is a very complex situation. And we can't just brush it off as if, children are children. And then you have parents that tell you, if a teacher do my child, what he gonna do to the teacher? I mean, are we serious? This is why children behave so, When children see others doing something and there's no punishment for it, then it is the norm. That's the way to do it. How many men hit women? So young boys see the father put some slaps on the mother, some bucks on the mother, and the mother still hugs him up and kisses him. So the son says, what? Okay, you gotta hit him sometimes for them to love you. You see where I'm going with this? This is unfortunately the way things happen. When you listen to social media, when you listen to the songs in the music sometimes, nothing against the music. I don't might like the beats, but there's no need to downgrade a woman in the song. And then those same women are throwing down themselves and fainting on the floor. We have lost all social grip and moral value grips on our kids. And they behave out there, they fight out there like animals. And then we say, oh man, that's the young children, they're just expressing their frustration and anger. No, they are not. Because if you give them a chance, they will kill the other one. Because the instinct of survival is in there right now. That's where a young child that's being bullied goes to school with a knife or a gun and shoots a person. Because they see no other way anymore. This is what's really happening to us. We have to wake up. We have to deal with school fights different. And we have tried many ways. They have not worked. So why can't we try a boot camp? Use the VKS. Ask the Dutch Marines to assist us. Some of them can teach the children to read and write Dutch. Physical education. A skill of carpentry, mechanics, because they are here down there, they have skills too. We can do that. We ask for working relationships with each other. We do it with border control. We got them in the police. We got them in the Coast Guard. Why can't we have them in a boot camp? Aruba and Curacao got boot camps. Why can't we? I'm not telling you that's the solution. But most of the youngsters that went into the army when they were young turned out reasonably well as they got older. Not all, but most. And that's what we need. We need a change of direction. And hopefully, if we do that, I believe a lot of young men and women that are now on the wrong path can be brought back on the right path. I honestly believe so. Community councils, churches, neighborhoods, they all have a role to play. All of us have a role to play. This is not a police job to go fix school fights. It's not theirs. It's not the school to babysit your child and teach your child manners. That's your job as a parent. And telling me you have to work 2 jobs to make ends meet, I can understand. But when I see your son walking around with a 200 pair Jordan sneakers and you gave it to him, then I ask you, where are your priorities? The national health insurance, what does it mean for our people? After speaking about the national health insurance last week, I decided to delve into the aspects of what does it mean really for the civil servants exactly, and naturally the public in general. And a few things are factual. The premiums are going up. The SZV premiums are going up. How much they're going up isn't very clear yet, even though I understood that there's a document out, 200 and something pages. I understood my colleague Ramiko, who does do podcasts, has that document. So I'm going to ask him if I can get a copy and I can look through it and maybe see in there if they have already discussed this law, how much the premiums going to go up. Everyone will have to pay to be insured, and everybody is going to be obligated to be insured in the national health insurance. So we have two things. You have the private sector and you have the civil servantry. Now in the civil servantry, we used to pay 10% of whatever we had spent, and now they changed that we pay 4.75% of our salary towards health insurance as civil servants. When you hear them talk about the copay had to do somewhat with how much they're going to increase the premiums for the civil servants also. And right now I understood it's any place between 0.9 and 1%. So we might go up with 1% in our payments for the, as civil servant, you're going to pay instead of 4.75, maybe 5.75, or maybe even 6, I don't know. The government, who's the employer, will pay the balance. They will pay the balance of whatever the new premium is going to be. For the private sector, their coverage is going to go up a little bit. The ones from the civil servants are not going to go down, I understand. They will remain as is. So the private sector, because of equality, they will have to be brought up a little bit. That means it might be a little more expensive for them and they'll have to pay for it. The law was supposed to go into effect on the 1st of January 2024. I don't know if that's going to be reached because the law has not gone through the cycle yet. It needs to go Council of Advice. When it's finished with the Council of Advice, it still has to go to Parliament for discussion. When it's finished with Parliament, the law still then goes to the government to be presented to the governor. When the governor signs off on it, the ombudsman has 6 weeks to review the law on discrepancies, and when that is finished, you can publish it in the Gazette, and I think after 30 days, the law will go into effect. If you add up all that time, you will realize that you would have passed the 1st of January 2024, meaning that the law will only go into effect soonest the 1st of January 2025. That's what it means right now, in my opinion. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am wrong. But what is worrisome for me is we don't have the information on what these new premiums are going to look like and how these new premiums will affect the working class that is already living for 75% below a livable wage. How does this work? I mean, we can't even afford living here now presently the way we should, and we want to now increase the premiums for health care. The burden on the businesses is also going to be very serious because the pension premium, the healthcare premiums are going up. The sickness and the accident insurance premiums are going up. They're not going to stay the same. They're not going to go down. CFT told us if we don't fix it, the fund will be bankrupt between 8 and 10 years. There will be no healthcare. It is not sustainable. Nor Aruba, nor Curacao, nor St. Maarten is the healthcare sustainable at present. There were reports written of it. So let us not whine about that. That's factual. It means the price is going up. The problem is this. If the prices go up, can we afford it? And if we decide we're going to bring down the healthcare level to make sure we can afford it and pay for it, what level is that going to be then? Is that still within the norms of acceptability within the kingdom? Because that's what we have to look at. We signed on to human rights treaties and all these things, so we got to make sure that we are in adherence of those things. And again, a lot of people don't think on these things. They just blow over them as if it's a God-given. It's not a God-given. If money determines what you're going to get, then we need to know what we're paying for. And at this point in time, I don't know what's really happening. And I get a feeling that we are undermining the sustainability of the healthcare by going to charge people what they can't pay. This copay is very instrumental. And I don't think they're out of the woods yet with the copay when it comes to nor the civil servants, nor the public sector. So it's something to see. But again, I think at the end of the day, how do I say? Let me ask these questions and maybe it will sound better. What does it mean for the people of this country? What does this national health insurance mean for them? Can they truly afford what we're selling as government? If we answer that fairly, with 75% living under the poverty line, under the livable wage, the answer is a resounding no. We cannot move forward the way we are. But again, what does it mean? Because government has this new modus operandus, this wait and see. This is because of a lack of strategic thinking or a helicopter view of what's happening, because it's starting to look scarier and scarier. And this is not fear mongering. This is tell the people the damn truth. Tell them what they're facing. Tell them what they're up against. Give them a fair chance to prepare for it. You all are not even talking about it. You're not bringing out any information to the people. Why? If this was supposed to go in the 1st of January, we were screwed already. Is this the way you all plan to run the government? Wow. Armed robberies. A sign of the difficult times or not? When I read the police reports and see what's happening, clearly the most alarming aspect right now beside this whole child molestation issue has to be the alarming number of armed robberies. Are armed robberies going to also be seen as a new norm again in our country? Because we had this problem once before. There was a cleanup team made and they arrested a lot of people. Heavy sentences fell. They're all in point blank right now, but now there's a new team out here doing what they're doing. And you can't just hope the police solves this problem, because is that all it is? The question is, where is this stemming from? Why are we having these robberies? Sure, we have them all over the world. Every country got problems. But why are we having them? Is this a poverty issue? Is this a hunger issue of families? Families are hungry, so their sons are going out to rob. Are there no jobs available for those committing crimes? Are we talking about broken families and social issues leading up to crime? Or, like how we always like to say, why is American people so lazy, so they're just going to rob and done? That's the easiest one to do. And if they get catch, they go in jail, they get no fee, they could do what they want anyway. And I'm sure there are 100 other reasons that can be given for what's happening. But all of them are wrong. You cannot justify a crime with those type of reasons. You can't. Not an armed robbery. Look, somebody go in the supermarket, steal a loaf of bread and run out because his family is hungry. I understand that. Somebody goes in to a business, picks up a wig and steals it. I don't understand that. We need to be clear on where we're going and where we're not going. But the government on its own is not going to get a pass on this one, because too many people are struggling in their day-to-day existence and are being stepped on by the government to pay their taxes or auction your house or pay GEBE or cut your light and water. Understand that youngsters are looking on and are saying, that ain't gonna happen to my family. I'm gonna take it from the rich. So I'm gonna start robbing the businesses. They ain't robbing homes, they're robbing businesses. So the Robin Hood era is going to break out once again. We got to be careful, people. Look, humans, when you push them hard enough and long enough, they're going to attack you like an animal attacks his prey. Survival of the fittest. When we look at food prices, I just told you about a box of 5-pound chicken wings, 22 guilders, in a supermarket right here. I was baffled. I left it right here. I didn't even pick up a chicken. The utility prices are going through the roof. Transportation cost is going up. The cost of health is going up. Yet the salaries are going down. People are being laid off in the off season. You name it, it's happening. We need to put the people's well-being first, right now. Not next week. We got to do that now. And if we don't do that, nothing going forward will work. People need to feel secured. I told you what a king said, Their existence must be guaranteed. We are guaranteeing their destruction. Just the opposite. We're not guaranteeing their existence. We're guaranteeing their destruction. Our jails are filled to capacity already. So when we catch all these bad boys, what are we going to do with them? Send them Bonaire, Holland, or are we going to let go of the criminals? You tell me. Because that's the problem we do. All right. So what are you doing and what you didn't know? Election time is wrong, I got a call last week from Vromi boys. You know, I used to work in Vromi for 24 years, so know the boys them quite well. I've shared a lot of good times with them and a lot of bad times too, when things were rough. And I liked that the head of the Department of Infrastructure Management went to the boys. I know he has been trying to raise their salaries, something that anybody who has sat in that seat has tried over the years. But it doesn't work that way. Not because you want something and get it. You have bosses above you. Civil servants don't decide if they get a raise. The law does. The function book, the organizational chart, the salary structure. Those things are prepared, approved, signed off by the governor, and become law. So to go in the yard and have the boys them sign up a letter that if they don't get their salaries fixed and increased within 30 days, what might happen? This letter was sent to the Prime Minister. And I'm saying to myself, why are we doing this stupidity? Why are we trying to make people believe something will happen when anything will happen? So you could say you tried because you're on the slate of the NA? That's how we get now? That low we going now? I thought you all said we are one. You all definitely one. Because you setting up the Prime Minister for those boys to turn on her. And then you can tell them, don't worry, man, I'm going to take care of it when I get in. You don't get in there bad, man. You ain't taking care of nothing. I'm going to expose you for this nonsense you're doing. Because this is stupidity. If you believe that those boys really believe what you're saying, then you truly don't know Vromi yet. You are the laughing stock among the crew. You're fooling yourself if you believe this. But clearly, the intent to place blame someplace is crystal clear. So the Prime Minister is going to be a downfall because she ain't going to take a stand up. And these days, she ain't laying down either. So what will happen? Let me explain something, no? When the Prime come for you, I hope you can run. Because she can come. I heard now that the Minister of Romy, Minister Stupidity, he went on Grace and started running him out. Oh, he don't understand why I always complaining about the pumps, and I was there for decades. Jacko, let me explain something, brother. I know you're stupid. I know you're stupid. But let me still explain to you in small language. Those pumps used to work when I was there now. They always used to work. But since you got there for the past 4 years, you damn fool, you haven't done nothing. Nothing was done. When I was in process of leaving, I was busy trying to order them by ABB. The trust fund was also involved. To put back new pumps is a few 100,000 euros. All right? That's it. No more, no less. And you go there, run your mouth. But oh, I was there, and we never used to flood the way you always flood now. And they got preacher boy there crying, but oh, we out here walking in the rain. Man, get a life, boy. You want to beat me in the arena? Walk. Work hard in public works. Stop giving away land that you're not allowed to give away. But don't come pretend that, oh, I the cause of those pumps not working. I left there in January 30th, 2020, and I took office the 10th of February, 2020. Pumps were working. All of them. Today, September 25th, 2023, no pumps ain't working. But I do it. But you so stupid you don't even know it. But nevertheless, like you like to do fact checking, go fact check that before you talk. Cause last time you were fact checking this and fact checking that. Go fact check that. But that you don't do. But I don't do it. You can tell already. I ain't afraid of you. I'm gonna expose you for the con you be. Cause it look like you don't get enough attention from the pad now. Climb up on this tree, you're gonna find out. I a kosher tree. Every monkey know which tree climb. You know, trying to tell the employees in public works how I threw the blame on them for the pumps not working showed how stupid you are. You can't buy loyalty, you fool. You earn it. I earned my loyalty in public works. I stood with them in good and in bad times. Not you. You stand with nobody. You had your department head writing a letter to give to your Prime Minister. Why you didn't write a letter? Why you didn't write it? Why you didn't take it to the Council of Ministers? Because you're a coward. That's what you are, a coward. A little boy running hiding behind mommy. I gonna come for you. I gonna zoom in on you just now. And maybe the prosecutors don't want to do what they gotta do. Maybe I just gotta guide them in the right direction. Have no fear, brother. I gonna do what I gotta do. I tell you that before. I done playing games with you. Because you seem not to understand what respect is. I try to give you respect. But when we call you out on something, oh, we disrespect you. That's only a fool's thought. When I look at Vineyard Heights, I didn't know where to turn or what to think. Somebody called me and said, you hear what the minister said? That the victory of Vineyard Heights was a great victory for the government. I smiled. I said, well, you know, when somebody doesn't comprehend what he reads, I understand. I understand the thought. The people lost, so the government win. That's the simple way of looking at the situation. When you don't read what the verdict says, then you don't really comprehend the ride you're on. But let me explain it to you, little boy. Let me explain it to you what the judge did. The judge said that the intention to grant domain law in long lease wasn't done properly at all by the former Minister Myers, and the courts found that it was not done in line with good governance, as the High Courts recently ruled in the Netherlands that these things must be done. You have to publish the intention that you're going to give the lands, everybody can apply, so that there's equality and there's transparency, etc. Basis of good governance. But the High Courts went further in their ruling, because the High Court said that if such a deed is given, it can be annulled. And how and why can it be annulled? Because there's no time assigned to a deed. Think on passports, people. I need you all to think back on Dutch passport. You get your Dutch passport, you went with the census, and 20 years later they call you and tell you, a mistake was made when we gave you your passport. We are taking back your passport. This has happened in Maarten a few times already. The same goes for these deeds. The thing is, an individual cannot go and do that. An individual can go and complain, and then this happens. But if there's a foundation, like how we have many foundations, Foundation in Animal Rights, Foundation in Safeguarding Domain Lands, if they take it to courts, you'd be surprised how many deeds might have to be reversed. I don't think any deed before the High Court's ruling will be reversed. But everything after that, because there's a presidency within the law, can be reversed, including all 25 that were just given out in the vineyard. Please, if you don't know what you didn't read, then don't go and blabber your mouth on the radio station, because that decision is deadly for the government. So what you should do is, if you're going to talk about it, then talk about it and tell the truth. The decision had some very critical things in it. I find it unfortunately that that's the way you went with it. The people that were given the fault by the judge, I don't understand that. And I hope they appeal, because they were not at fault. They followed the minister. If the minister acted illegally, then the judge should have dealt with the minister and not the civilians. Because when somebody goes for their passport, you expect it's being done right. When I go and ask for a building permit, I expect it's being done right. You cannot come after the fact and blame me as the person, the layman outside, who is following the lead of the government to be wrong. And that's what happened here. So I hope they appeal to rectify that and hold government accountable for the damages they incurred. They were sent to cadastre. They were sent to get their building permits and everything. And then this happens. So yes, the 7 people or the 8 people, I don't know how much it was, they got a negative. They should appeal. This is a civil case, so I think it's 6 weeks you got to do it. But Minister, you yourself should carefully look at that verdict. Ask people that understand what's written to explain it to you. Because you clearly don't know. Because if you knew, you wouldn't be talking like that on PGD2 in Gracie's show. But again, it is straightforward for you all. Let's wait and see what's going to happen. I wouldn't do that. Don't wait and see. It can be harmful to the people in this country. If it ain't good, stand up against it. Move on. You all saw the press release from Cormerx, the legal representative of the Seman School Bus Owners Association. They were upset. They had a meeting, and Cor told the bus drivers after that, let's remain responsible, let's go pick up the kids. But minister, we want to sit down. Today I read in the newspaper, the minister said, oh, they saw an agreement already. Yesterday on Gromiko, I hear Cormex with a whole different story. So somebody BSing somebody. I gonna put it by the minister that he BSing people, because he good at it. The man is really, really good at spinning the truth. The drivers said they are willing to give into a lot of things, but they got to be paid for their work. The minister is saying, oh no, but they're being paid for their work. They're being paid too much, actually. It is, how I say, you are qualified, man. You got to get paid. You got to get this. Clearly, it don't really work so. But nevertheless, I honestly hope that the minister takes a step back, takes a deep breath, and goes in the negotiations with them on equal footing. And don't come with, you either take it or leave it. And get out, I gonna bid it. It don't work so, minister. Because if they stop picking up children now, crap a smoky pipe. Crap a smoky pipe. You think other people can jump up and run, come to your aid and screw over all those families of the bus drivers? No. That happens in a country when there's nobody cares about nobody. So if this happens, it will show you that dog will eat dog in this country any given day. Any given day. I don't have an issue that a bid is done. I think you should do a bid. Then it's transparent. But for now, you make an agreement, or you write out the agreement, and you prepare at the end of the agreement for a bid. Other than that, you're just trying to take bread out of people's mouth. Who you gotta give this contract to? I know elections is for 4 months away. Who did you all promise? That's the only way I can see it, that you are behaving this way. Only this way. But again, I would say, move on now. Now you can still do it freely. Move on. Let me give you all a little political joke before I close off. So, they said, demons letting go donkeys all over the island. Ministers got cattle roaming loose all over the island. Other ministers sleeping outside, and others lose their doo-doo darling. Popo looking to grab donkeys on the loose. When you put names to that riddle, you're going to have a great laugh. Remember this, government. Not because you all believe you're doing a lot means you're getting a lot done. Let me address utter nonsense today. The Dutch government made it very clear that prosecuting the ENIAC culprits is a country affair and not a Dutch affair. Yet the Dutch made it their affair to try to screw our countries with a loan to bail out ENIAC. Why are they involving themselves in that though? Think, people. You gotta learn to think. Maybe they're saying let's enslave them longer by owing us money we know they can't pay anyway, and thus will remain on a leash dependent on us, motherland. Thank God, due to public pressure, the prosecutor's office in Curacao and hopefully one in Maarten will reveal, because Curacao said it, Maarten didn't say nothing yet, that they too are prosecuting all those mentioned in the complaint of the Central Bank of Curacao and Maarten. So, maybe they will call the FBI in America and ask for assistance, or any other country where they have some of these individuals living that have according to the first judgment in the courts of appeal, the Terms of Venice in the courts of appeal also, that a lot of people got money that they shouldn't have gotten. It was 5,000 guilders a month, so 60,000 a year, 600,000 for 10 years instead of 3 million, 3.8 million, 3.7 million, etc., etc. You know, I even. That's what they said. So let's see, because somebody got to start paying this back. And I mean, the Dutch signed with us, I think it's a year or two ago, with a lot of eloquency, cross-border crime fighting. America's cross-border, according to me. Curacao, St. Maarten, that's cross-border. We might be the same kingdom, but we got borders. We cross them. So, what happened? We ain't gonna do that? Or is it only guns and drugs that we run after? But not farmer judges. What is it exactly? The government is taxing the fuel 2 times 5% in these difficult days. Maybe y'all can review that and say, let's take away 1, let's take away 2 of them, because at this point in time. All right, okay, the volume is back. Thank God for that. Let me go into my closing remarks, and what we will do then is I'll have these 2 videos tied into each other, and then I will put it out directly. On YouTube, you all will see it. But let me go back into my closing remarks. Would it not be great if families with a house can get subsidies to place solar panels, a battery in the house for backup power, and maybe even a loading point for an electrical car in the future? We speak so much on climate change and fighting climate change that we should be looking at these options to make the difference on our island and become much less dependent on fossil fuel. Will our governments ever be able to say no to fossil fuel? Presently, the answer is no. But believe me, that with the Now Party, we will do what needs to be done to start that program, one house at a time. I truly thought the whole agreement of the SDG signed with Minister Jetten of the Netherlands was meant to get St. Maarten out of the stone age of fossil fuel energy. Guess I was wrong, and it was just a photo op. The electoral reform seems to have once again taken a backseat. I honestly hope that I'm not wrong, and that the government and parliament take the necessary steps to safeguard a fair and transparent election. If we ain't doing so, just tell the people. No need for our national crybaby to come during elections and say who didn't do what, as presently the coalition of 8 members has a majority. For 2 years, while I was not in parliament, because of a faulty constitution in our country, this government has sought every possible excuse not to legalize weed, nor the tolerance policy, so that our people, especially the younger generation, stay out of jail and still have a clean police record. So if they want, they can still get a good education and a fair, good job. But we prefer to keep them as beggars and criminals instead of making legal money and let them pay tax. A new economical pillar will be established once the Now gets in. Let me leave you with some food for thought. Our national health insurance will cause many people to doubt the way forward with health care, and rightfully so, as transparency and accountability in our government is one of the biggest issues causing such. Our not agreeing to take a stance that the ENIA loan is not in the country's best interest and is basically against the RFT law is very disturbing. Our country has some surplus now since June, and yet we cannot finalize the amended 2023 budget nor our 2024 budget, with all sorts of excuses. Our seniors and less fortunate residents of this country are crying for the much needed help, and government is just closing their eyes and doing things that are hurting them more and more. The school fights and armed robberies are signs of the new times. just as the verdicts regarding child molestation and rape. The wait-and-see strategy, one of a coward, is sad as the country continues to be placed in a financial dilemma that will hold another generation hostage. Our people deserve to know what their future will be, not lied to about how hard they're working and only negativity is being spewed at the government. People are expressing their real feelings and the government needs to wake up and smell the coffee. Remember, failing to plan is planning to fail, and this government has done this over and over and over. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe my YouTube page. I am going to merge the two videos soon as this is over, and then I will put it on YouTube right away. Take care, Bunks is out, have a great week and stay safe.